Here are the group members: Andhika Perdana, Chemistry Alga Nurvita, Rezky Wahyudi, Sandra Regita, last one is Rezky Nurul.
Well, first, I will explain about characterizing the essential of methods. So, second language teaching is a field that provides an excellent meeting ground for the many theoretical and practical aspects of psycholinguistics to come together. It is here that we have a chance to see how ideas of human language and learning interconnect. So next is about language focus, speech communication versus literature. Methods can be divided into two categories of focus. Those that they teach language through the speech of target language. The target language being the language to be learned. And those that approach the target language through reading and writing, except for grammar translation, which focuses on reading, writing, and the translation of written words. Most other methods focus on speech and the use of speech in communication. Next is about meaning learning, direct experience versus translation. In providing the meaning of target language items, translation may be used, as is commonly the case with the GT method. For example, English-speaking students studying Italian may be told that labor means book, or that "come means how are you. Thus, the native language, in this case English, is used to provide the meaning for the target language, Italian. The meanings of single vocabulary items and entire phrases and sentences may be learned in this way. Okay, next, grammar learning. Induction versus explication. Explication involves explanation in the native language of the grammatical rules and structures of the second language. For example, a teacher can explain to Japanese students in the Japanese language that English has a subject plus verb plus object ordering of basic sentence constituents. Japanese has a subject plus object plus verb ordering. In learning the same by induction, however, students would have to discover the order of constituents on their own. It would be necessary for them to hear sentences of the sort, Mary got the ball, while experiencing a situation in which
Okay, I will read the material 7.2 Traditional Method in English Language Teaching. The section review for traditional second language teaching methods. First, grammar traditional method or GT. 2, natural method or and 3, direct method, and last, audiolingual method. Okay, this method reflects different historical views on linguistic learning since the 1918. Little innovation has occurred, and some argue that the age of method is over. Okay, the grammar translation method. The teacher's linguists talk, explain grammar rules and translation into the native language. Focus on reading and writing, not speaking or listening skill. Teachers explain rules, student memories, read text, translate, and complete grammar exercise. Translation is usually from the target language to the native language, rarely the other way around. Yes, some advantages of GT or grammar translation method. First, easy to apply. The teacher are not fluent in the target language. and support self-study with a wide variety of textbooks available, and less theoretically flexible, as it can adapt to different linguistic and psychological theories. In disadvantages of GT or weak in spoken communication, students often cannot speak or understand basic conversation and unsuitable for young children, as it requires reading and understanding abstract grammar exploitation. So guys, although often criticized, grammar translation has survived for centuries and is still used in many countries, especially where qualified language teachers are limited. Number 2, the natural method. The natural method developed during the Enlightenment as a response to grammar translation, inspired by thinkers like Comenius, Rousseau, and Pestalozzi, based on how children naturally acquire their first language. So, main feature follow the natural sequence of language: first listening, 2 speaking, 3 reading, and last writing. No direct grammar instruction or translate. Learning happens through situational, spontaneous conversation using only the target language. Teacher use gesture, contact, and demonstration to convey meaning, focus in entirely and oral communication. And the natural method advantages promotes natural fluency in understanding and speaking, suitable for immersive real-life communication practice. So, and disadvantages demand creative one teacher who can manage spontaneous interaction. Small class size is often needed, max 15 students, not practical for mass education or in context with limited resource. Point 3, the direct method or DM. This method evolved from the natural method in the late 19th to early 20th centuries, focused on learning talk speaking with no use of the native language, based on physiological and linguistic principles to improve learning efficiency. And in the direct method or DM, may feature emphasis oral communication, following the natural order of first listening, number 2 speaking, 3 reading, and last writing. Grammar is learned deductively through exposure rather than direct explanation. Material are pre-planned and graded by difficulty, simple to complex structure. Listen often include dialogues, questions, comments, and action-based activities. In the direct method, advantages encourages active use of the language in meaningful contexts, can be applied to large class using group or choral response, and promotes mental engagement and faster learning compared to unstructured methods. Okay, so in direct methods, challenge requires high fluent and creative teacher, less spontaneous than the natural method, but still demands strong language modeling. Thank you.
The audiolingual method. A historical overview is the audiolingual method is known as ALM. It also known as the Army method, which was a prominent approach to foreign language teaching in the mid-20th century. It's widely considered with the growing influence of American linguistics and psychology. The method's popularity stemmed from its effectiveness in quickly teaching large numbers of military personnel foreign languages during World War II. Key features of the ALM: incorporation of structural linguistics. The ALM emphasized the grammatical structures of the target language, aligning with principles from structural linguistics. Incorporations of behaviorist psychology. It drew heavily on behaviorist psychology, emphasizing habit formation through repetition, drills, and immediate error corrections. Typical classroom activities included dialects, mimicry, memorization, and various pattern drills. And demise of the ALM. Over time, the theoretical foundations of the ALM were challenged by the rise of cognitive psychology and transformational generative grammar. Methods like the cognitive code, community language learning, silent way, and suggestopedia emerged as alternatives. The LM's emphasis on rote learning and limited communicative practice was criticized for failing to develop genuine fluency and communicative competence. Contemporary language teaching methods. Modern language teaching methods as total physical response or TPR, communicative language teaching or CLT, the natural approach, content-based instructions, task-based language teaching, and computer-assisted language learning, or we call it CALL. Uh, Prioritize communicative competence and learner-centered approaches. While some elements of the ALM, such as pronunciation drills, may still be used selectively, it is no longer considered a dominant approach. First, total physical response or TPR. Rationale of the method. Natural approach TPR follows the natural acquisition order, emphasizing listening comprehension before speaking and speaking before reading and writing. Physical action. Student learns by performing physical actions in response to the teacher's command in the target language. This is believed to enhance memory. Classroom materials and activities. Commands the teacher gives simple commands like stand up, sit down, open the door, and gradually introduce more complex sentences. Demonstrations. The teacher demonstrates the meaning of words and sentences by pointing to objects and performing the actions. Student engagement. Students are encouraged to give comments to their classmates, engaging in interactive activities and games. Demonstrations project. Japanese students learning German. The text highlights a demonstration project where Japanese students learn German through TPR, demonstrating the methods, potential for effective language acquisition. Children versus adults. Advantages for children. TPR is particularly effective with children who are more naturally inclined to engage in physical activities. Adaptations for adults. TPR can be used with adults but may require modifications and adaptations to address potential discomfort with physical activities. Communicative language teaching or CLT. Focus on communication. CLT prioritizes the learner's ability to communicate in real-life situations. It utilizes a variety of techniques to facilitate this goal, including dialogues. Real-life dialogues are introduced to provide context for language learning. Role-play. Students engage in role-play scenarios to practice communication skills and problem-solving. Tasks and activities are designed to promote communication and collaboration. Uh, Eclecticism. CLT often borrows techniques from other methods, integrating a variety of approaches to enhance communication proficiency.
About the natural approach. The natural approach is a language teaching methodology developed by Stephen Creyson and Tracy Terrell in 100 in 2070s and 100 in 2080. This approach emphasizes natural language acquisition principles rather than formal instruction and have several key components. The components of natural approach is first speech understanding to present productions. The natural approach emphasizes that students should develop comprehension skills before they are expected to produce language. These principles draws from observation of first language acquisitions, where children listen and understand long before they begin speaking. The second component is creative materials and syntax-based actions. The natural approach utilizes materials that are carefully sequenced from simple to complex to provide appropriate challenge for learners. Rather than explicitly teaching grammar rules, teachers present language structure contextually through meaningful communications. This component is the affective filter. The affective filter hypothesis suggests that emotional factors create a mental barrier that can prevent language acquisitions, even when comprehensible input is available. Anxiety, loss of esteem, embarrassment, and lack of motivations press this filter and block the language acquisition process. Teachers using the natural approach strive to create a low stress, supportive classroom environment where students feel safe to take risks with the language. Next component is a monitor hypothesis. According to the monitor hypothesis, learners develop an internal monitoring system that acts as an editor for language output. This monitor draws on a consciously learned rules to check and correct language production either before or after speaking or writing. Next component is the acquisition learning distinctions. The acquisition learning distinctions represents a fundamental concept in Gresham's theory, proposing to separate an independent system for developing language ability. Acquisitions occur subconsciously through meaningful interactions with the target's language, similar to how children develop their first language. Next component of the natural approach is a criticism of the monitor hypothesis. Critics argue that the monitor hypothesis lacks empirical verification and oversimplifies complex cognitive process. The distinctions between acquired and learned knowledge is difficult to measure objectively, leading some researchers to question its validity. Critics point out that the theory does not adequately explain how learned knowledge might transform into more automatic process through practice and experience. Next is the distinction of contradictive. Many educators and learners find the sub-acquisition learning distances counterintuitive based on their experience with language learning. They claim that consciously learned knowledge cannot transform into acquired competence contradicts the experience of many successful language learners who began with explicit instructions. Traditional education approach worldwide have emphasized explicit grammar teaching for centuries, making it difficult for some accept that such instructions play only a peripheral role in developing communicative ability. The intuitive belief that practice makes perfect suggests learned patterns should eventually become automatic during the acquisition learning boundary creation process. Okay, we continue. Next component is arithmetic and acquisition learning distances. Grayson sometimes uses arithmetic as an analogy to illustrate and challenge his own acquisition learning distances. Mathematical skills like additions and multiplications can be explicitly taught through rules, practice, deliberately, and eventually become automatic. Raises questions about whether language operates differently. This analogy highlights the debate about whether automatically learned knowledge is functionally different from acquired knowledge. And the last component is rules can be taught. Despite emphasizing acquisitions, the natural approach acknowledges a limit rule for explicit rule teaching in certain contexts. Simple, concrete grammar rules that are easy to understand and apply may benefit some learners, particularly adults with analytically learning styles. Rules should be taught selectively, focusing on structure that significantly impact on communications or are not easily acquired naturally. So next material we will discuss about content-based instructions. Content-based instructions represent an approach to language teaching that integrates language learning with meaningful subject matter. Instead of teaching language in isolation, CBI embeds language instruction within content for academic subject or topic of interest to learners. The language features in CBI include academic vocabulary, specialist terminology, and discourse patterns specific to different subject areas. The approach emphasizes authentic language using context rather than simplify or artificially constructed example. Language development focuses on all four skills: reading, writing, listening, and speaking, as they naturally occur within content explorations. Academic language functions such as describing, comparing, hypothesizing, and evaluation receive particular attention. Teaching predecessors in CBI typically organize instruction around thematic unit drawn from subject areas. Teachers employ extensive scaffolding techniques such as visual supports, graphic organizer, and demonstrations to make content comprehensible. Lessons incorporate interactive tasks that encourage collaborative learning and meaningful communications about the subject matters. Teachers carefully craft both content and language objectives for each lessons, ensuring balanced attention to both domains. The advantage of CBA are numerous and significant. This approach enhances student motivation by focus on meaningfully relevant content rather than abstract language study. It develops academic language proficiency that transfer across subject areas, preparing students for mainstream academic work. There is context provided by contents material supports deeper and understanding the retention of both language and concept. CBI promotes critical thinking skill as a student engages with substantive idea while acquiring language. Despite its benefits, CBI presents several disadvantages. It demands teachers who possesses expertise in both content knowledge and language teaching methodology, a combination that can be difficult to find. Creating or adapting material that are both content rich and linguistically accessible requires significant tips and resources. Teachers may struggle to balance attentions between content and understanding language development. Assessment become more complex when evaluating both language progress and content mastery. Beginning language learners may find the cognitive demands overwhelming without sufficient science support structure in place.
Task-based language teaching approach a contemporary method of language instruction that emerged as a response to communicative language teaching. Task-based learning teaching emphasized the role of purposefully designed tasks as the primary vehicle for learning a language. TBLT doesn't rely on specific theory of language but emphasizes the importance of meaningful activities that stimulate communications and regulate language input and output. Learners are assumed to acquire the target language through engaging in communicative and purposeful tasks. And what are the advantages and disadvantages of TBLT? First, the advantages of TBLT engaging in meaningful activities like tasks and puzzles provide a sense of purpose and motivations, making learning more engaging and effective. Second, stimulates communication. Tasks inherently encourage learners to use the target language in authentic ways, enhancing communication skills. And third is authentic materials. TBLT often uses real-world tasks and materials, promoting more realistic language learning experience. And what are the disadvantages of TBLT? First is lack of clear definition of task. The term task can be interpreted in various ways, leading to inconsistent implementation and assessment. Second is potential for inadequate focus and grammar. While tasks may indirectly support grammatical development, TBLT doesn't always explicitly address grammar instruction, which might pose challenges for some learners. Heavy reliance on teacher creativity. TBLT requires teachers to create and manage tasks effectively, placing a significant burden on their time and expertise. Second is what we call CALL, Computer Assisted Language Learning. CALL has gained prominence with the advent of technology, particularly the internet, making it more accessible and cost-effective. And CALL offers individualized learning, allowing learners to progress at their own pace and receive tailored instruction. And CALL can supplement traditional teaching methods by providing structured exercises, drills, and interactive activities. And last is goals must be considered. No single teaching method guarantees success, and the choice of method should align with the specific learning goals. If oral communications is the primary goal, speech-based methods might be more suitable. If reading and writing are the primary goals, grammar translations might be a better fit. A balanced approach integrating elements from the various methods can address diverse learner needs and objectives. And the conclusions. Second language teaching employs diverse and evolving methods influenced by linguistic and psychological theories. Effective approaches vary by context and learner, with communicative methods currently favored for their emphasis on real-world language use. Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Okay, that's all some explanation about second language teaching methods from group 7. Thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.